Good evening and welcome to my How Healthy Are You weekly conference call as we go into the second week or more of being locked down. And I hope all of you are surviving this. It's going to be very challenging. It's hard on me too. And it's very hard on all businesses. But we'll get through it. So just wanted to mention a few things that will be covered in more detail in the written version of the newsletter, but I know that some of you don't have access to email, so your only way to learn this is calling in on the phone system. So your best vitamins, minerals, and foods for your immune system are these, in perhaps decreasing order, at least for the vitamins. Most important one is vitamin C. I'll go into detail in the newsletter why that is. Next on the list, and almost as good as vitamin C, is vitamin D. But remember, you can make your own vitamin D by being in the sun. And as far as vitamin C, you can eat lots of vitamin C-rich foods, such as citrus and all sorts of other fruits. Kiwi's really high in vitamin C. Third on the list is vitamin A, and vitamin A keeps our mucosal cells strong, and I talked about that last week in the newsletter about how important mucus is to combat a virus. As far as minerals, the best one is zinc. And for consuming something that's very antibacterial and antiviral is garlic. Now, this assumes you're not allergic to citrus fruits for your vitamin C and assuming you're not allergic to garlic. So allergies take precedence because when you eat foods that you're allergic to, you end up hurting yourself more from the excess inflammation. Inflammation is always a big problem, and I've written about that one a lot in the past, but nothing wrong with going over it again. I've been getting some questions on what colloidal silver actually does. So for microbes, bacteria, yeast, fungus, what it does is it starves the oxygen supply to these species, to bacteria and other microbes. As far as a virus, though, what it does is it actually destroys the cells that make up the virus. And then when that happens, then the virus can't do you any harm because the virus needs to attach to a cell in your body. This particular virus, COVID-19, it likes to attach to the lungs. So as long as you don't let it get there, you're fine. But unfortunately, we all have to breathe. And it's very difficult to stop touching your face. Most of us do it a few times an hour. I mean, I think the average is a number between 10 and 20 times an hour the average person touches their face. And this counts as everything, every possible reason, from an itch to moving your hair, to blowing your nose, anything. And once the hand goes to the face, then it's easier for any pathogen to get to your lungs. So I recommend trying to be cognizant every time you touch your face. But the colloidal silver is proven strategy. The problem is we are getting low on colloidal silver, and it looks like we won't be getting any more in for a few months. So there's a backlog. I'll keep everyone updated on that. In today's newsletter, I'll be talking about cells that eat microbes. They're called phagocytes, and how pathogens work by weakening our immune system. So we had a question for today's call. It's a really great question, and it's about what does it mean when you have too much gas? And is it bad? And is it normal? Well, it turns out that when you're healthy and you're eating lots of plant-based foods, you're going to have a lot of gas. It is a normal breakdown of the foods we eat, especially any fiber-rich foods, which is fruits and vegetables and beans and rice and oatmeal. So it is actually a good thing. Now, it's embarrassing and it's considered bad manners and you really have to be careful, but it is, in essence, a good thing. Now, when you also take enzymes, you'll notice that you'll have more gas. And that's because you're digesting your food completely, and what's left is gas. And the gas has to leave the body. It migrates through the small intestine and the large intestine and the colon where it exits. But you gotta let that gas leave your body. It's part of healthy digestion, and it's actually a good thing. It's just politically incorrect, but biologically, biochemically, it's good. It's good to be that person that forms a lot of gas, because that means you're digesting your food to completion. So that's what I had for an introduction today. The newsletter should be coming out either tonight or tomorrow morning. Now, I'm going to open up a call for questions. We've got quite a few people on the call, so we'll see. All right, so you should have heard, all of you are unmuted. So if you have a question, now is the time to ask it.
I have a question.
Yes.
I had spoken with you earlier. I've been trying to get on to using the probiotics, and
right.
I've been having various difficulties. You said to try doing it without food, like half an hour before eating.
Right.
And I'm still having troubles. Is there any other option?
Even with just one probiotic?
Just one probiotic, and not even every day. But every time that I've tried it since I spoke with you, I get heartburn afterwards, which is one of the things I had trouble with before.
Right.
And I was doing it with food.
Right.
It's not quite as bad. The heartburn isn't quite as bad.
Right.
But
and that's just one probiotic per day.
That was just one. But see, I've been trying this ever since the beginning of January. And
right.
I did like one, and then I waited a couple of days and did another one, and my symptoms got worse. The first time I did it, it was a stomach ache, and the next time it was my glands and my ears and my throat were hurting. And then I waited almost a week, and then I tried it again, and then all of those symptoms got worse. It was like a bigger impact, and I thought that didn't make me feel real good about continuing, but I waited almost 2 weeks and tried it again, and I just kept trying to give myself more space. And
this is what I recommend, because I've talked to you numerous times, and I'm well aware of your essentially hypersensitivity. So instead of taking probiotics right now, I'm recommending you focus on prebiotics. And prebiotics are just foods that are high in carbohydrates. So this would be your good carbohydrates, fruits, vegetables, fiber-rich foods, whole fiber, whole grain foods, whole fruits, whole vegetables, your good carbohydrates. Mm-hmm. They will feed the probiotics in your system so that they stay at a high level. You have to remember probiotics are a big part of our immune system, and now is not the time to have a weak immune system. The other huge part of our immune system is our white blood cells. So I'm always recommending people keep their white blood cells big and strong and to keep their gut healthy. And when I say gut, it's the bacterial balance in the gut. So you don't want to have too many parasitic bacteria, but you need some, so it's got to be in balance with your probiotic bacteria. Well, if you're eating foods that feed the probiotic bacteria, you'll have a good balance. So if you're already doing that, then just keep doing it.
Are there ever anybody that you've worked with that can't do the probiotics? I mean, do I keep trying, like after a while try again?
Well, I don't remember. It's possible after doing this for 15 years, but I don't remember offhand. I would recommend you not take probiotics for, say, 2 to 3 months. Mm-hmm. And just focus on the food-based prebiotics. Now, we should all be eating those foods anyway. Whether you eat meat or not, we should all be eating fruits and vegetables and whole grains as a carbohydrate source. Whether you eat lots of carbs or low carbs, those are still the carbohydrates of choice. So just focus more on feeding your probiotic bacteria versus consuming them.
Okay.
Because if you want, in a couple of months, I mean, you could drop down to taking 1 probiotic a week.
I haven't ever really gotten going with them. I mean.
Right. But I'm just saying you could just stay there at 1 a week eventually.
Okay. Just start out doing 1 a week and then don't try to go more than that.
Yes. But for now, don't even take any.
Okay. I just keep bumping into this heartburn thing and bloat, and then it affects my my lymph system, I guess, because it's like in my neck, under my ear, my tonsils and all that just get to
right. It almost sounds like you are allergic to certain strains of probiotic bacteria, because people can be allergic to anything. And it's bad when we're allergic to something that's good for us. When I was talking about garlic as being good for us, and I was saying, well, some people may be allergic, I'm one of those people that is allergic to garlic and turmeric. And I just found this out about a month or 2 ago when I did my food allergy test. And I'm like, whoa, I need turmeric. It's an anti-inflammatory, it's anti-cancer, it's good for cleansing the liver. Well, I had to stop consuming it. And naturally, my inflammation went down, and the way I checked that is I noticed that there was a lot less pain when I was doing my exercises. So I knew something had changed, because I was essentially stronger by having less internal inflammation. I didn't even know I had this inflammation. So, and over time, I might be able to eat garlic and turmeric again. But I tell people now, I tell them all sorts of things that are good for them. That doesn't mean 100% they can have them. I mean, so you might have an allergy to certain strains of probiotic bacteria, but I'm assuming you can eat fruits and vegetables.
Yes, I can, and I do a lot, but maybe I need to do more and adjust some other things in the process too.
Right, perhaps.
A couple weeks ago, I had a sore throat. It was just a passing thing, but I took some garlic chopped up raw garlic and put some honey on it and just swallowed it. And I made out fine for about a day and a half, and then I started with just terrible heartburn, and it took me a little bit to figure out what was happening.
It's the garlic.
Yeah, I think it was the garlic that I was reacting to.
Yeah, because raw garlic is hard on all of us. So it's tricky. The best way to consume garlic is freshly squeezed raw garlic, where you put it in a garlic press and squeeze it, and that releases the active compound. Mm-hmm. But it's also hard to consume, and it can even burn in your stomach. So there's so many things that are good for us, but we have to be careful how we consume them, and if they cause more problems than they solve. It reminds me of what is going on now with the COVID-19 virus. Is the solution that we're dealing with in this country, is that worse than the virus itself? Meaning, are more people going to be injured, hurt, and die as a result of these extreme measures, or is this better? Well, that's somewhat debatable. It depends on who you ask, but the decision was made to essentially quarantine everybody, or as many people as possible. That was the decision. And so we have to live with that. And maybe in a year, they'll figure out whether that was the right decision or not. But that's what we have. And, it's a similar thing when consuming foods we know are good for us. They could hurt us more. And anytime you have pain or inflammation, and inflammation is a symptom, right? I mean, inflammation causes the pain. So it's a source of the pain, not a symptom, but it's a source of the pain. You have to reevaluate your food intake. And there are other foods you can consume in every case that's essentially anti-inflammatory, or foods that are good for your gut bacteria. There are always alternatives. There isn't one food or one spice that is the only one that's essentially good for your gut. There's numerous ways to eat correctly, and it's somewhat customized for every person based on their genetics and their allergy situations. Also their age, their exercise level. People that exercise a lot or work a lot, their diet can be vastly different than someone that doesn't spend a lot of time moving on their feet. So everything has to be customized. I know you've been working with this a long time, and we've had numerous conversations. So again, keep it in mind. You're not the only person that has to work around food issues. Yours are a little more challenging for sure, but it's not like everyone can just eat anything they want and not have a repercussion.
I guess I was holding off using the silver until I could make sure that I was going to handle the probiotics.
Right.
Is that still the right approach, to hold off until I figure some things out?
What I recommend is you can start the silver, and when you finish, and you would do a very low dose. I think we already talked about this, perhaps a tablespoon a day. Mm-hmm. And then when you do your cycle, whether it's 7 days, 10 days, 12 days, and I think I told you 10, you would just stop the silver and increase your fruit, vegetable, and whole grain intake instead of taking probiotics. Mm-hmm. So you would just do it that way.
I might go ahead and try that if it's
yeah.
And I guess
I think that'd be prudent.
Mm-hmm. And at any point in that 10-day, if I realize that I'm getting a lot worse, then I would just simply stop.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Because everybody can't take everything. So
I think I'm doing pretty good on the amino acids. I'm doing two times a day.
That's excellent. Yeah. Yeah.
What am I supposed to be working up to? Or what's the
2-3 times a day.
2-3 times a day.
Right.
Okay.
But, 2 times a day, you're almost there. That's great.
Yeah. Can I do 2 times a day, or is it better
to
break it?
No, you can do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
It would work out better because I only have 2 meals a day. I have a few snacks in between.
Right. That reminds me when we had the Telezyme product, you were supposed to take 4 a day, but you're supposed to split it up as best you can. Well, most people are awake 16 hours a day, so the concept was to take a Telezyme every 4 hours. Now, who's going to remember every 4 hours, years and years in a row, to take 1 capsule? That's it's pretty regimented. What I've replaced it with, you only have to take 1 capsule a day. So it makes it a lot easier. But, I was one of those people that did the best I could to take 1 Telezyme every 4 hours, but it never quite worked out. And so I ended up dropping down to, instead of every 4 hours, I took 2 with breakfast and 2 with dinner, so it's essentially 8 hours apart. Still worked. I still grew my telomeres, but, who knows if it would have been better, 1 capsule every 4 hours. But, we all have to figure out what system works best for us and what we can do based on other responsibilities, children, work, things like that.
Okay, that's helpful to know.
All right. Do we have any other questions? I'm going to unmute a couple of people. There was some background noise.
Dr. Brewer, can you address the benefits of different types of teas?
Of cheese?
Teas, T-E-A-S, teas.
Oh, right. So this is something I learned fairly recently, was white tea versus green tea versus black tea. And so as you go from white to green to black, the caffeine content goes up. But it's still about half of coffee. So if people are caffeine sensitive, they can do the teas. What is considered the best tea for antioxidants and phytochemicals is green tea. And it's obvious, green tea is green. So if you had a choice, that's the best choice, is green tea. It's in the middle range for caffeine. So it's not the highest, it's not the lowest, but it's the highest in antioxidants and phytochemicals. So you get your best health bang for the buck with green tea. Is that what you thought?
Well, I'd heard something similar, but I just wanted to verify.
Right. You don't see a lot of white teas out there. You see a lot of green and black teas. The black tea tends to have more flavor. It's kind of like dark roast coffee is more flavorful.
Okay. Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. White tea is still good for us. There's, obviously there's benefits to all teas, but white tea is also has health benefits. It almost comes down to preference, which is similar to coffee. right? Light roast, medium roast, dark roast. There's a trade-off with coffees. Dark roast is lowest in caffeine, and you'd think it's high in caffeine, but it's not. It's lowest in caffeine because the caffeine gets burned off. So a light roast is going to have more caffeine, but less robust flavor. Well, some people, that's what they want. They want that. They don't want coffee to be too strong, but they're sacrificing that because there's more. The trade-off is there's more caffeine, and dark roast coffee, a lot of the caffeine gets burned off. Not all of it, but more, and so it's lower in caffeine, but it's good for people that like that robust flavor. Teas, they're not heat treated, so the nutritional value in the tea is inherent in the source of the tea, so that there isn't a roasting process with teas. But if you're choosing, I would recommend green. If you don't like green, try white tea. That would be my second choice. And they're probably fairly close. I know there's differences. I don't know a lot of the advantages of white tea compared to green. There is a trade-off. So hopefully that helped.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. You know what? I was just thinking of something else about the teas. It turns out white tea actually is lower processed. So that's the difference, is white tea has less processing. So because of that, it ends up even higher in antioxidants than green tea. Right? And so it's low in caffeine, and it's high in antioxidants. So I guess it turns out white tea, if you like it, and you know, is quite good. So I was always thinking that green tea had more phytochemicals, but white tea has more antioxidants. So white or green are going to be your best bet. And if caffeine's an issue, of course, white tea would be the one of choice. So I just had to dig back in my brain about that because I remember learning that a few years ago. So is that better, Sandra? More complete?
Yeah, yes. Can you tell me if there are any side effects to caffeine? Major.
Oh, of course. Of course.
In tea.
So it's the same. It's the same molecule. The caffeine molecule in tea is the same molecule in coffee. It's the same molecule in cocoa. The effects of caffeine stay with us many hours. So the half-life, which is a common way to determine when half of something breaks down in our body, the half-life of caffeine, I believe, is 4 hours. And that's only when half of it's been broken down. So it would take 8 hours for 75% of it to be broken down. And some people do very well with caffeine. They don't even notice it. It does have an effect, but it doesn't bother them. In others, they're going to get headaches. And they absolutely positively will not be able to sleep until they wait somewhere between 4 and 8 hours to get that caffeine broken down in the body. It depends on the person. Some people, though, are very sensitive to caffeine, and if you're one of those people, you'll know it because you'll immediately get a headache when you consume coffee, tea, or chocolate, which are fairly high caffeine foods. Now, there are foods out there that are made in factories where they concentrate the caffeine, energy drinks and sports drinks, So you would really notice it consuming one of those. Some athletes use caffeine to improve their athletic performance. So they'll have a cup of coffee before a workout or a glass of tea, something like that. And it actually will improve their ability to work out because they'll be a little more focused, they'll be more alert. I know some fighters that I work with do that. But it all depends on who you are, what your genetics are. Personally, I can have coffee and go to bed an hour later. But I don't think I could have 3 cups of coffee and do that. Because eventually, no matter who you are, too much caffeine and you'll end up with a headache. It's just, we all have different sensitivities. So if you're consuming too much caffeine, you'll know it. You'll have jitters and you'll have a headache, and you'll have to back off. And the best way to get it out of your body is to drink water and just to excrete it. And if you're consuming caffeinated products and you have no headache and you're able to sleep well at night, then you have essentially nothing to worry about. The benefits of caffeine are kind of interesting because the cancer-fighting properties of caffeine go up as we drink more and more caffeinated products, and it's counter to what's comfortable for most people. So most people can have 1 or 2 cups of coffee a day, and they're fine. But the cancer-fighting properties of caffeine go way up when you consume 4, 5, or 6 cups of coffee. Well, that might be too much for some people. And then, like I was saying before, sometimes what we're trying to do to help ourselves is hurting us more than we think. So if someone says, well, I want to drink lots of coffee or tea or chocolate, so I have cancer-fighting properties of caffeine, but then they have caffeine headaches, all the way up to migraines. Well, I don't think it's worth it. There's other ways to fight cancer. The easy way is keep your white blood cells active and eat a lot of plant-based foods. That's probably the best way, rather than consuming a lot of caffeine. So just because a study showed that high caffeine intake is good for cancer and is anti-cancer, that doesn't mean you should do it. It's just a fact. I do know people that drink that many cups of coffee a day, 6 or more, and they seem fine with it. And most people couldn't get away with that. And some of the people I know that drink a lot of coffee every day, they eventually ended up with caffeine headaches and jitters, racing heart, and they had to cut way down. They had to stop drinking coffee for a couple of months and then ease back into it. So caffeine is a drug. It's something to be careful with. It's not a nutrient for our bodies. It's essentially a drug that comes with plant-based foods. So coffee's a plant-based food, tea's a plant-based food. So it ends up coming with plant-based foods. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, that was perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay. Do we have any other questions? Yeah.
Yeah, can I ask another question real quick?
Why not?
I'm sorry. As you get older, your body doesn't produce the enzymes that it does when you're younger. And so
right.
we start taking the plant enzymes.
Right.
Does that ever make your body start to reproduce more enzymes?
Well, Not exactly. The reason we take enzymes and the reason I tell people to take enzymes is so that the organs that make enzymes do not lose their ability to make enzymes prematurely. So your liver and your pancreas will only make a set number of enzymes in your lifetime. So if you go through those by the time you're 60 and your pancreas and liver can't make any more enzymes because you've ruined their ability to make enzymes, well, then you're going to pass away and die. Now, when one takes enzymes that are plant-based, well, then the organs that make these enzymes don't have to make as many. They still have to make them, because if they stopped making them, those organs would shut down. So that's a bad thing. But they don't have to make as many. And if they don't have to make as many, you get the best of both worlds. Those factories, which are these organs, liver and pancreas, think of them as factories. They get to keep going without shutting down. So they're going to last longer because the output isn't as necessary. They don't need this high throughput. But they're still in business. They're still making enzymes. So now you get to live to 90 or 100, something like that, with much better quality of life because you can eat all sorts of different foods because you're digesting the food and metabolizing it and eliminating the food. So that's the whole point scientifically to take enzymes, is so the organs, which are factories, can last longer and keep making enzymes for you into your 80s and 90s. Because when they lose the ability to make enzymes, well, then you can't sustain life. And essentially that's what happens when somebody dies of old age. They say, well, that person died of old age. They didn't have a heart attack. They didn't have cancer. They were just got old. Well, eventually their organs just couldn't make enzymes again. Or couldn't make any more, couldn't make enough to sustain life, and they pass away. So what I'm trying to do is make sure that happens way late in life, and not in your 60s. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay. Boy, these are all great questions this evening. Do we have any other questions?
I have a packing slip question. The last order that I got from you, I need a total on that sometime.
Right. Give me actually, I'll write this down. Yeah, we had trouble getting those to print right, so I'll send it to you. Is it okay to email it?
I don't have that here at my house.
Do you have a cell phone where you can look at a picture?
I don't think my cell phone will accept that.
So I need to mail it.
Yes, I guess, unless you would send it as a text. I think my cell phone would accept a text.
Well, it'll take a picture too. I'll see. I'll send you what I have, and then if you don't get it, I'll just mail it.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, we were having trouble with that, showing the numbers. We had tried to change everything, and then they all read zeros. So.
Okay. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. Do we have any more questions? If not, I'll close out the call. Well, we had a really great call this evening. Lots of great questions. And there'll be a lot of people listening to this later on, so it'll be valuable for everyone. So I'm going to end the call today. I'll be doing another call next Monday. So I want everyone to stay healthy out there. Okay. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thanks.